आज के वीडियो में हम समझने की कोशिश करेंगे एक 2x2 मैट्रिक्स को, which is my favorite framework to use to solve any kind of cases, and literally it can be used in so many different situations. Hi everyone, welcome to Insider Gyan. मेरा नाम सौमी है. I'm an IIT Delhi and ISB Hyderabad grad, and on this channel I share my career experiences. I also teach you a little bit about case frameworks, business terms, etc. so that it can help some of you understand business a little better. So if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing to the channel. Now coming to 2x2 matrices. 2x2 matrices, like I said, is my favorite matrix to use, and इसका ना कोई standard matrix नहीं है. So let me give you a bit of context on what is a 2x2 matrix. Basically, you select any case framework, right? It gives you a process to structure your thoughts. It's the same with a 2x2 matrix. In a specific situation, to evaluate that, if you have two parameters, you put one of the parameters on the x-axis, you put the other on y-axis, and divide the whole x-axis cross y-axis, the space, into 4 different quadrants. Each quadrant is going to be treated differently, and each quadrant will give you different action items to choose from, okay? That's necessarily what a 2x2 matrix is. अब जो है ये 2x2 matrix different situations में use हो सकते हैं, and obviously different situations में जो parameters है आपके x-axis और y-axis में, they are going to be different, right? So let me explain to you using 2 examples so that it's easy for you to understand what I mean by it. But don't be restricted by these 2 examples only. A 2x2 matrix can literally be used in so many different situations with different sets of parameters for x-axis and y-axis. So be creative and feel free to create your own 2x2 framework using the matrix. Okay, so example number 1. This is something that I use in my projects quite a bit, and I call it a priority matrix. Okay, अब इसका x-axis और y-axis के parameters क्या है? पहले तो देखते हैं कि ये किस situation में use होगा. Now, priority matrix is used typically to understand what your implementation roadmap could look like. जैसे कि मान लो आपके project के बाद आपके पास से 10 set of recommendations है which you are offering to the client कि ये सारी 10 चीजें उनको करना चाहिए to achieve whatever their end target is. But हर company के पास minimum resources है which is restricted. So out of those 10, what are the ones that they should focus on first? What is most important for them to focus on in the say next 3 months versus 6 months versus 1 year? To decide that priority, I would build a matrix and help them understand how to think about different recommendations. And this is my priority matrix based on my definition, by the way. ये कोई case book definition नहीं है, ये मेरा definition है and what I use in a lot of my actual cases when I'm working. Okay, इसमें x-axis में I'm going to put strategic importance of the recommendation कि तुम्हारे client के लिए कितना important है ये recommendation, and like the axis is going to be high to low, or rather low to high. So it can be low strategic importance or high strategic importance. Similarly, on the y-axis, we'll have a different parameter which is called difficulty in implementation or feasibility कि कितना cost लगेगा, कितना time लगेगा, उसके हिसाब से आप एक difficulty scoring देंगे. Difficulty can be either low or it can be high. तो आपका जो अब top right quadrant है, okay, जिसका strategic importance high है and difficulty level भी high है, इसके लिए आप क्या action लेंगे? Now strategic importance high है तो आपको करना तो वो पड़ेगा ही उसको, right? This is something that I'll call the strategic priorities, which means जितना भी आपके पास investment है, you focus on these because these are strategically very important for you, even though they are difficult to implement. The company definitely needs to invest time and energy in these set of recommendations. Then bottom right पे आते हैं. These are the ones where the strategic importance is very, very high, but the difficulty to implement is low. Now this is a no-brainer, right? You will obviously go ahead and want to implement it as soon as possible क्योंकि strategic importance तो बहुत high है and difficulty level भी low है. So this is something that I'll call the quick wins. So strategic priorities, quick wins. Now coming to bottom left, जहाँ पे आपकी strategic importance तो low है but difficulty to implementation भी काफी low है. तो आपके पास कोई इमीडिएट अर्जेंसी नहीं है इनको रेकमेंड करने के लिए, बट बिकॉज डिफिकल्टी लेवल इतनी लो है, दीज आर काइंड ऑफ लाइक लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट्स, मतलब बहुत ही आसानी से आपको मिल जाएगा. सो इफ यू हैव एक्स्ट्रा रिसोर्सेज देन जस्ट पुट इन देयर एंड गेट सम ऑफ these things implemented because these are low hanging fruits, right? The last quadrant is where the strategic importance is low and difficulty is high. This is like the worst case, worst bucket to be in. Why would you want to implement something which is very high to very difficult to implement, and the strategic importance is also not as much? In this kind of a situation, you are going to drop those recommendations or keep them for the latest, like kabhi aage jaake resources हुए हमारे पास तो हम करेंगे. So that's how I use this priority matrix as a 2x2. This was just to give you an example. As you can see, the different parameters that you can use this framework in literally any kind of situation. अगर आप एक growth strategy define कर रहे हैं, for example, the two of your parameters could be growth percentage, expected growth percentage, high or low, and on y-axis you can have how much profitability or how much sales it can bring, and then you can have that 2x2 and decide for different buckets of items how you should treat them. I'll take one more example for you. Now, this is a famous one, a casebook kind of a framework. It's called a BCG matrix and it's a popular one. Some of you might have already heard of it. एंड ये BCG मैट्रिक्स किस सिचुएशन में यूज करते हैं? बेसिकली अगर आप एक कंपनी के पास बहुत सारे प्रोडक्ट्स है, राइट? यूजुअली कंपनीज के पास बहुत सारे प्रोडक्ट होती है, ऐसा तो नहीं होता कि एक ही प्रोडक्ट है. बड़ा कंग्लोमरेट है तो बहुत सारे प्रोडक्ट्स होंगे. नाउ इफ द कंपनी वांट्स टू डिसाइड कि आगे जाके उनके पास रिसोर्सेज तो मिनिमम ही है, किस प्रोडक्ट पे इन्वेस्ट करे दैट कैन ब्रिंग देम द मैक्सिमम इम्पैक्ट और द मैक्सिमम बेनिफिट. अगर इस चीज को एनालाइज करना है तो किस तरह से 2x2 फ्रेमवर्क यूज करके you can identify the products. Okay, so over here in the x-axis we will have the relative market share, कि उस product का market share कितना है in overall industry. So it can be either low or high, and you will obviously have your own definitions of low and high. And on y-axis you are going to have something called a growth potential, कि अभी अगर market share बड़ा नहीं भी है तो growth potential क्या है इस product का. That can again be low or high, and you can accordingly divide your matrix into 4 parts and take action. Now let's take a look at each of these quadrants and see how to treat them. Let's start with the top right one, where your relative market share is high but your growth potential is also high, which is the best place to be in, right, for any kind of product, कि आपकी market share already high है, इसकी growth potential भी high है, मतलब आगे जाके आपकी कंपनी को ये प्रोडक्ट काफी ज्यादा profits and growth दे सकती है. So we are going to call this the star product, or rather BCG called it the star product. Now if we go to the bottom right quadrant, this is where your market share is already very high but the growth potential is low. Now this will typically happen in a mature kind of an industry, जहाँ पे एक product काफी टाइम से उस industry में है, because of that it has built its reputation, it has built its brand value, and hence it has a huge market share in the market. But मार्केट इतना ग्रो नहीं करेगा, मतलब वो मार्केट ऑलरेडी, वो जो इंडस्ट्री है वो ऑलरेडी स्टेडी स्टेट में पहुंच चुका है, विच इज वाई द ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल इज लो. So this is what we call a cash cow, which means because of its high market share, it is going to keep bringing cash to the company, but कंपनी को अलग से कुछ इन्वेस्ट करने की उसमें ज़रूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल वैसे ही कम है, तो अलग से इन्वेस्ट करोगे तो भी क्या ही करोगे, ऑलरेडी मार्केट शेयर काफ़ी ज़्यादा है. सो दैट्स लाइक अ गुड स्टेडी स्टेट प्रोडक्ट विच कंपनी शुड कीप, एंड थोड़ा मेंटेन करते रहो उसको तो वो तुमको प्रॉफिट देती जाएगी नॉर्मल. नाउ लेट्स गो टू द थर्ड क्वाड्रेंट विच इज द बॉटम लेफ्ट वन. दिस इज वेयर द रिलेटिव मार्केट शेयर इज वेरी वेरी लो एंड ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल इज ऑल्सो वेरी वेरी लो. तो एज यू कैन इमेजिन दिस इज द वर्स्ट प्लेस टू बी इन. अगर मार्केट शेयर भी आपकी कम है, ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल भी कुछ नहीं है, तो आप क्या करोगे उस प्रोडक्ट का? उसको ड्रॉप कर दो, discontinue that product is going to be the recommendation, right? And now moving to the last quadrant, which is the top left. This is where the relative market share is low at the moment, but the growth potential is high. मतलब ये है कि आगे जाके because of the growth potential, it can become a star product for you. या फिर अगर आगे जाके वो product अच्छे से काम नहीं कर पाया, तो it can also come like bottom में भी आ सकता है, drop वाले bucket में भी आ सकता है, right? So this is a bit of a question mark, but overall this is वन ऑफ दोज प्रोडक्ट्स जहाँ पे कंपनी को जनरली इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, इन्वेस्ट करके उसको टूवर्ड्स अ स्टार प्रोडक्ट में ले जाना चाहिए. Because growth potential is high, if you invest more, then even though your relative market share is low today, tomorrow you can try to push it to a higher market share and make it a star product for your company. So that's how basically you use 2x2 matrices. Now, as you can imagine, there are different ways you can use a 2x2 matrix. All you have to do is just have different parameters and two different parameters, and you have an absolutely new matrix in front of you, absolutely new framework. I think through this video, I just wanted to pass on a very key message that case frameworks are all about a framework that can help you structure your thoughts in different ways. Okay, and if frameworks don't work for you, if something else works for you to structure your thoughts, then follow it. You don't have to stick to a specific framework at all. But frameworks are usually like, जैसे आप थोड़ा break down कर दोगे ना बड़े problem को, it's easier for you to solve, but it's also easier for another person to understand as well. इसके कारण हम बहुत सारे frameworks use करते हैं. This is the fourth framework that I am putting out on this channel. Every Tuesday I've been putting out one educational / businessy kind of a video in the hope that it can help some of you understand businesses better. So hope you guys liked it. That's all for this video. But if you liked it, then hit the like button and let me know in comments if I should continue this series or not. I'm totally going to rely on your feedback for this. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'm going to see you soon. Till then, bye.